Alrighty, I'm hoping I finally solved the phone issue because it stopped me again. And I realized it was because I put videos in the trash to be deleted and I didn't permanently delete them. So here we go, take three, part three. I really appreciate you doing the multiple clicks today so that I didn't have to re record all of that. That was some really good stuff. But anyway, back to the story. So the king has outlawed dueling in his land, but he has divinely coordinated that these two noblemen are going to experience a duel because he has commanded them to go to the same area. And without fail, knowing that their nature is that they will duel, he now has the means to punish them because he has outlawed dueling. So we have there God's divine will, while also humans believing that they have free will. Now let's talk about the concept of believing we have free will, because if we are, I want to say that I think of us as AI. Like we have the means to wake up to our own programming, like our own traits, our personality, the way that we think we would act. And yes, then we do get free will. But like, what if that is also calculated precisely? Because these two noblemen, they believe that they're exerting free will by rebelling against the rules, when in fact that is exactly what the king wanted. So when you think about the journey starting and the first discussion, especially with the twin flame, I didn't know if I had lost my free will or not. Does believing in God, does that entail now submitting to a divine will, now changing what I would have otherwise done to do what I believe God wants? And this concept of freedom, going back into entitlement versus deserving, and when it comes to personal responsibility and taking your own freedom, I want to say that my spiritual sickness had everything to do with me not taking responsibility for my journey and myself. It was actually me attempting to hand over responsibility, saying, well, if God exists and this is all gonna happen anyway, I guess why aren't we together now? I had all these questions like, if divine will is present, then let's see it. It was me thinking that the responsibility automatically shifted to something greater and that I was no longer in charge. So me thinking that I was not in charge of my destiny and that things were just going to roll out anyway the way it was going to, I was still in a way victimizing myself and thinking, why me? I was still thinking, why is this happening to me and can't I control it? Why can't I control it? So the more I came away from that and realized that, this stream of consciousness means that we are one with the divine. To not think of, to expand on the definition of God, to not believe that God, the universe, is a different entity outside of us that is somehow controlling us, just another third party in our lives, just an either greater version of mom or dad, an even greater, more judgmental version of the people in our lives, like all of them combined exponentially. God is not an external finding. God is an internal discovery. And when I realized that meeting my soul, finding the definition of my soul was also a divine link to it was also me discovering God within myself and realizing that we co-create, that free will and God's will runs together simultaneously because they are one. Because that we were created and that we have all our thoughts and beliefs and what we think we're going to do, what we actually do, what we consider our free will, this is all God's will. This was all endorsed by God. So when you free yourself and realize that you have the freedom and that this freedom was given to you by God, and that God wants you to have this freedom, that God isn't trying to, much as that nobleman story is kind of a bad example to me, because I feel like, in a way, it's saying that God deliberately sent these two men to sin so he could punish them. That's not what I want you to take from it. What I want you to take from it is that God willed us to do what we want, and that is God's will. So when you free yourself into thinking there is actually no such thing as sin, there is only what you choose to do for you, and to come off the belief that God is a judgmental party that is watching you and waiting for the means to, like, damn you or something. God just simply wants you to be you. To give yourself freedom, but also give yourself the love of God, is to free that abandonment wound. Give it up, take it away from yourself, remove it so that it's no longer part of your soul, part of your being. Once you allow the concept of God to take hold within yourself, this unlimited concept that gives you this unlimited freedom and also access to love, a great love that somebody, every, something so expansive out there loves you so much that he, she, it, they wanted you to do everything that you could ever imagine for yourself with no excuses. This is not a God that is limiting us to go to church and worship in a certain way. This is not a God that is limiting us to finding what is that Proverbs something woman that dresses a certain way. This is not a God that is limiting us to choose a certain type of spouse and to judge our selection of partner or the people that we choose to surround ourselves with. So once we free ourselves with this notion that God is limiting, because God is unlimited, and God freed us so that we can be unlimited. And this ability to understand that our free will is God's will. It is not something that runs in opposition and has to feel wrong, like all of a sudden, because it will remove your freedom if you believe that you are acting in opposition to God, or that you have to change your habits now upon awakening. If you have to change your habits now to serve your concept of God because you've created this entity that needs to be served in a certain way that's contradictory to how you would serve yourself. If you find yourself trying to walk into this religion or church of your choosing where you have a shame-based way of being, where everything you do, you're like all of a sudden, oh my God, I need to stop drinking, I need to stop smoking, I need to stop messing around with random people. And so I think the first great detour in my spiritual journey was first thinking that I had to be a certain way in the presence of God. I thought that it created shame for all the ways that I had been already. It created an even greater reversal of self-love because it made me not want to accept what I'd been already. Like, if God were watching, would I be different? I don't know. So at first I tried to be different. Like, maybe I would be different. Maybe I would be like a better version of me if I had God in my life. And the more I learned along the way about how to love myself and how to create this separation between me, other people, what they believe in, what I believe in, I realized that my love for myself is God's love. That we're co-creating all the realities in our lives, that the divine is within you, that you are with the divine. And you tap into that every so often when you go to the fifth dimension, the fourth dimension, whatever. But when you get into the higher dimensions and you start to unlock your greater senses, your higher chakras, you feel the presence of the divine. But then you also realize that consciousness is you. You're also there with it. It's like the power of God within you, like bestowed in you, like the floating stream of consciousness where you're able to just come into some sort of temporary all-knowing where you've unlocked your spirit self and you've escaped your body so that you could experience the fullness of the universe without being limited by your human body. And this was the experience that I had, that my human body was limiting me. And I thought, I could be so much more expansive if my soul was out of it. So I felt that like release when I went up there, and I could feel, but supposedly the whole point of this journey is to bring that realm down here, is to bring the 5D to the 3D, is to somehow embrace that expansiveness that we now know our soul is capable of, and then somehow find a way to bring that consciousness down here and have it coexist even with the body, is to somehow escape the perception that our body is limited, because we have this 3D body, and we think in terms of how much work it can do, and at what point it breaks down, what we have to feed it. We think of it as a machine that only can go so many miles, but I think that this barrier, not just the immaterial barrier, but also the physical barrier, is one that we are capable of breaking the more enlightened we become over time. We can use our power with God's. We can use our consciousness to feed these subliminal messages, into our body and into our reality. That when we start to manifest the reality we want, this has to do with the reprogramming. And we've had these negative thought loops before, where we're unknowingly creating the chaos in our lives because we just believe that life is full of crap, But then when we start to replace that with positive thought loops, and then those turn into belief systems, then those belief systems shape our reality. Now what if you could induce a physical miracle in yourself? And this, I'll go on to this, especially with the ladies in another video, how I overcame over a decade of infertility, and somehow my body self-cured, and it happens. And I believe that it's a divine occurrence, that I was infertile. I was diagnosed with progesterone deficiency, and, with divine timing and with me coming into a certain oneness with myself and starting to feel like now's a great time to manifest whatever I want. All my greatest dreams come true. And like within a month or two, I had some sort of premonition. The previous month I thought I was pregnant against all odds. I thought I was feeling crazy, and I wasn't, but the very next month I was. And I think that the body's healing had something to do with my spiritual healing. I'm not saying that spirituality heals all physical wounds, but I'm saying that the consciousness, it has been scientifically proven that the consciousness does affect the brain's chemical processes, especially the things involving pleasure and pain. It releases cortisol for stress. It releases dopamine for pleasure. All the sexual hormones and things when we feel induced into that state by other people. But then, like, the more spiritual we get, I've heard about tantric sex. I've heard about that those ways in which we can induce the joy, like induce those feelings without having anybody else around us. Like, this is something that you can consciously program your body to feel over time, that you can conjure your state of pure joy from within. And that, I believe, is my at least my journey is meant for. I think that going into enlightenment mode full time is like me learning how to conjure pure joy, just feel it radiating from within and have nothing to do with the external world. But yes, I think I'd like to stop the video for today and let you think about that. So, embracing the possibility of God as limitless, but then also expanding that to include you, because God is within you. I'm not saying don't be egoist and say, oh, I'm God. I'm, because I've heard some spiritual people try to say that they're God. It's like, no, you're not. It's like collectively we are all, yes. Collectively, the whole stream of consciousness is what I believe, at least. But let me know if you have any questions, or in the comment box, let me know if you have something that you perhaps want to add to that. Maybe even a way to make it seem a little clearer if you thought that my explaining could use some elaboration or maybe a little tweaking. But yeah, this is definitely a food for thought where there is no wrong answer about your perception of God. But I'm hoping to open you up to the possibility that God is so much more than you already believe. That whatever stage you're at right now, whatever stage I'm at right now, that we still have the capability for expansion, because God is limitless. Therefore, we are limitless, even in these bodies. So, hope you enjoyed that video. If you thought this was awesome, please like, subscribe, follow me. There's going to be more tomorrow. All right, bye-bye.